growing up as American, soccer was never really a huge part of my life. I played Little League soccer when I was a kid, and I was a defensive back, and I had the great idea, the novel idea that, hey, kicking the ball out of bounds is probably better than me trying to dribble and pass it up the field. I was not very good at soccer. It's no reason that, I went on to become a defensive end in high school as opposed to continuing to play soccer. A fun sport, but growing up in America, it never had that cultural significance for me. It was always football, 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 not, the type that you play with your feet, but, American football. And that's very reminiscent in our culture. Is how soccer, even though it's developing, steadfast in the country of America, United States, I never understood what it meant and why so many people around the world considered it to be the best sport. And after watching a whole bunch of soccer over the past weekend, I finally understand why. I understand why this sport is so worshipped and honored by so many people across the world. And I'm kind of ashamed that it took me this long to kind of figure it out. We talked about, it on the show before, especially when the Super League, the ginormous Super League, was a thing, and I kind of got a taste about what it meant culturally, to some of these, clubs and teams and these people, and why it mattered so much. But two events happened this weekend that were really mind-changing for me. And the first is that, Lionel Messi won his first international trophy with Argentina, which is something that he had failed to do throughout his entire career. Messi has been often considered to be the best player in the world, but has had, consistent doubters and naysayers because of his inability to capture and carry the Argentinian side to an international victory in some capacity. Even though Copa America is an international, playing for your country and winning a trophy for your country is still something that Messi has struggled and failed to do up until this past weekend. He won his first Copa America. That kind of checks a huge box for Messi. Again, has won numerous personal rewards along with Cristiano Ronaldo, considered to be one of the top 3 players to play the game in the last 20 years. Fantastic football player. But he did not, or was unable to win a trophy for his country, and that, that box has now been checked for Messi. Fantastic for Messi. But the other, and probably the more important thing, for me personally, was the England versus Italy Euro 2020 final that happened on Sunday. The amount of drama, the amount of tension, emotion that was put into that game of soccer is something that I quite honestly have never ever experienced in any American sport that I have ever seen, watched, or played before. The Super Bowl is fine, and a close Super Bowl game is fine, but we don't have cultural ties. It's not an international. It's not like the USA football team is playing against, the England football team, and, there's pride as a country on the line. This is England versus Italy. England having not reached the finals since the 1960s. I've heard over and over again across the last, month, it's coming home, it's coming home, it's coming home, and I didn't get why that was such a big deal. Obviously, soccer originated, or the game as we know it today originated in England. It's coming home, it's coming home. I always thought it was pretentious, that they kept saying it, and I didn't get it. I just didn't get how emotional and dramatic and how important it was to England to even be able to make it to the finals in this state. So it's important and dramatic for England. And then there's Italy on the other side of things that failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2016, causing, national, I don't want to say shame, but considering how important it is, like the sport is in that country, Italy not making a World Cup is very shameful. And here now Italy, after, winning game after game after game, what was it, 34 straight games, found themselves in the final against England, and they played a fantastic game. England came soaring out of the gate. They scored a goal very early on, but once, Italy was able to settle in and dictate the game the way that they wanted to, towards the end of the second half, it looked like England kept poking in and got some chances here or there, but it felt like Italy was mostly in control, especially in extra time. And when it came down to PK kicks, which is something that had only happened once before, I think in 1996, the amount of tension, drama, and just cultural significance that a couple of, young adults kicking a ball into a net could hold. I'm watching there as an American, watching this on TV and having not understood why the sport was so culturally relevant and why it was so impactful and so honored and hailed by so many people in, Western European countries. I finally understood it with that PK, that penalty shootout, where Pritchard saves the first ball. Or maybe not the first ball, but he saved the second ball. He saves a ball by Jorginho, one of the best PK kickers in the game. And that was after Italy went up by a couple of goals. Maguire scored, Kane scored. And then Rashford comes in, takes his PK kick. He misses off the post. Then Sancho comes in. He misses as well. And Pritchard needs to save the ball from Jorginho to keep the team alive, and he does it. One of the more impressive saves I think I have ever seen. And at that point, I'm like, wow, England is going to win this football game. Like, it is destined for England. And then the 19-year-old kid comes up, and he rushes his shot. It took more time collectively for him to set the ball down than it did for him to kick his PK kick. And he rushed the kick and he missed it. And, the weight of an entire country dropped on a 19-year-old kid who's just starting his career. He's incredibly talented. And, man, the cultural significance of that and the drama and the passion of Italy winning that game in PKs, something that had only been done once before. Again, I think 1996 was the only other Euro final to go to penalty kicks. Having not even qualified for the World Cup in 2016 to come back and be undefeated, essentially, to win that final against a very, very good England team in Wembley Stadium, after that England team itself had not been to the finals in 50 or 60 years. That is what makes that sport entertaining. That is why people worship the game of soccer like that. It's so tense and drama-filled, and it has deeper roots that, as an American, I would never be able to understand unless I was born there. And I hate to say that it took me this long for everything to click, but these sporting events, Messi winning Copa America and also the Euro 2020 final, these sporting events have given me a deeper appreciation for the game, and I understand why it's heralded by so many people and why it means so much to people in Europe. And I kind of just wanted to talk about that on the show today. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.